the Rangers Journal Night.
Good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is your Rangers Journal first podcast of the day, as I think there's a little bit of breaking news that's came this today. Rangers have finally announced a new manager. It's been a long time coming. We have appointed Russell Martin as the 20th permanent manager / head coach. It was announced this morning at around about 8 o'clock. Rangers put the tweet out saying they were delighted to confirm that Russell Martin has been appointed as the men's first team coach. Joining me to go through what could be a momentous day, hopefully in the future of Rangers, is Ryan. Ryan, how's things?
I'm fine, buddy. I'm fine. How you getting on?
No bad. I think we're glad that it's done now, isn't it? It's been a long time coming, and Rangers have got the guy they want, and that's, I think, the most important thing in it.
Certainly the guy that they're making the noise that they wanted. Public opinion remains to be seen.
It certainly does mean to be seen. Of course, Russell Martin, not the popular choice, I think, judging by the support on social media. Obviously, it seemed to come down to Russell Martin and David Ancelotti. Ancelotti seems to have kind of fallen away over the last couple of days. I don't know if there's maybe another job lined up. We've seen rumours about the Como job and things. But listen, he made it abundantly clear at the presser. We'll go through his press conference that he wanted the job. He made it abundantly clear that he wanted the job. Rangers made it abundantly clear that he became the standout candidate after weeks of talks. You know, talks seemed to go on forever. Ryan, you said you didn't catch all the press conference, but I thought Russell Martin came across really well.
Yeah, I've seen basically the full kind of the unveiling part of it with the press members of the press got a chance to ask questions. He was there with Thelwell and Patrick Stewart, so I managed to catch the kind of 25 minutes of that. I believe that he's going to be releasing an interview in about half an hour's time as well, so we'll try and keep this to around about 7 o'clock for when they do it. But I'm hoping that the thing with it, Agents Rangers telling your next message is the Tuesday set this point. Convinces me wrong. Right. I think we were with Team Gerrard, weren't we? With this.
Yeah.
Right. And we're led to believe that Gerrard set the club a deadline to make the decision whether they wanted him or not. I think he was getting a bit annoyed, and I think he was a bit concerned about the length of time that he was going to have to prepare a new team and prepare a squad, and obviously do recruitment and stuff like that and get his feet back under the table. And that deadline passed and he walked away from the deal. So that was one. So I think we're obviously a wee bit disappointed when that happened. And it's maybe not to say there's a lot of people didn't want him as well. I think that was probably when it was kind of split the fan base 50-50, if you would agree with that, mate.
I didn't want Gerrard back. I made that clear on many points.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Who did you want yourself?
Muscat.
Right, okay.
I wanted Muscat before as well.
Yeah. So we had that, and then I would be surprised if Ancelotti doesn't end up in Como now. But the Como thing's only manifested itself since Inter Milan lost the European Cup. If Inter Milan don't lose the European Cup last Saturday, Inzaghi's probably still in a job. So, and we were well into the negotiations with Ancelotti prior to the European Cup final. So, have we taken too long? So he got a bit annoyed at us, and somebody's just basically went in and nipped him off us and gazumped us with it. So, it's a difficult one, right? But I don't think we bother with these guys now. They're done, right? We've got our guy. He's there in the building. All we can do now is basically support him and do our best. And our duty as Rangers fans is to get behind the team and get behind the manager as best as we possibly can. And regardless of our opinions on who we wanted previously, we don't make those decisions.
We don't, but we're certainly a good crowd to want to criticise every decision that we don't have any influence in whatsoever. Although, to be fair, what a lot of things that have been said is that the Rangers board in the past could have perhaps been accused of going for a more popular choice. You know, I think that, you know, when Steven Gerrard left, Gio Van Bronckhorst was a popular choice.
Yeah.
Michael Beale, depending on who you ask, might have been a popular choice with some of the support, especially people that drink in some of the pubs in Paisley Road West. Philippe Clement, he was a popular decision when it came down to it. I know some people wanted Frank Lampard, you know, but when he was appointed, it wasn't a case of, no, I don't want him, he's going to be a disaster. Whereas with Russell Martin, he seems to have came across as a pretty unpopular choice. But like you say, you know, Gerrard, maybe at the timing wasn't right, you know, he wanted more time, but Russell Martin has came to the fore as the board's decision, and that's the guy that they've chose to back. And they need, if they back him properly, he came across as a man, almost with a bit of a point to prove.
Yeah, I think we've got to realise now that public opinion doesn't really matter to these guys. That it was well. I seen polls. There was a poll for Oswald's. There was a poll on Rangers on Tour and Facebook and stuff, and it was basically a Martin yes or no. And 90% of the people that from the polls that I seen said no. So public opinion they don't care about. And see, to be honest, it totally as well. See if these guys were actually that bored about public opinion, they probably wouldn't have bought Rangers. Because let's be honest, there's a large population of this country that don't like us, and everything that we do is basically sensationalised. You just have to look at the Graham Souness tifo. It's blown totally out of proportion, and even the title celebrations were in George Square. Now everyone's up in theirs, but there's been things that have happened since then that always just get swept under the carpet. So if they cared that much about public opinion and people's perception of what their decision making is, they're probably not going to get involved with a club like Rangers, because everything that we do is always under the microscope, and there's always somebody willing there to kick us down and have a go at us and make us look like the bad guys, when truth be told, we're not.
We're not. We really aren't. Although, like you say, we like to be portrayed, especially at this moment in time when we've been such an easy target to kick, because we've continuously shot ourselves in the foot with bad decision making from the people that have been running the club. And that's obviously the people that have been running it before the board, the Parks and Bennett, have done a lot of good for Rangers. They're good Rangers men, and that can't be taken away from them. But there comes a point where you have to bite the bullet and say it's not working. And these guys have come in, and the consensus was that they would make decisions that the support might not agree with. We're talking about, perhaps, the potential, maybe more of an Americanization of Rangers, and maybe the potential for that. And some people won't like that, with a support that I think is quite reluctant to change. But they've proven very, very quickly, they've only been in the door less than a week, and they've made a decision that they think is the best decision for Rangers, not for the support, for the success and future of Rangers. So you have to at least give them the opportunity to say, this is what we want, this is the way we're going to do it, this is why we're doing it, and this was all said at the press, so this is why we've made the decision. Not just because we think Russell's a good guy. They said we all have a philosophy and an idea of what we want a Rangers team to look like, and Russell is the guy that we think can implement that the best, based on his experiences and based on the thing. Something that they emphasised was that he'd learned from his experiences, which I think something that was maybe used as a stick to beat him with, is that he was too stubborn, and he was perceived as a plan A only kind of guy, but he seems to have come across as somebody that's willing to perhaps be more adaptable than was was kind of put across initially. There
are always people that will point things down at him. Do you know? And the thing was the stuff that he said that his job at NK Dons is basically to build up. It was more so the needs of the business were more successful. The football department, if that makes sense. That his job wasn't necessarily to go and be a successful football team as far as winning games and gaining promotion and stuff. His actual job was turn this into a business and make it a viable business model with continuality players coming through the trading, the model of the academy, sustainability of constant conveyor belt of players and talents. So you can see the likes of even when he went to Swansea, Morgan Whittaker, who we were after. So there is a career there. So he was successful there. He done not bad with Swansea in League One. I think he missed out in the playoffs in League One to get promoted. Next thing you know, he's in the Championship. And he said in his interview today that when he went to Southampton, it was the first time he was actually told by a board of directors his target is to win and actually get his team promoted, and he achieved that. So he said that every time he's been set a task by a board, he's actually achieved it, which is good to hear. He's never turned around and said he's never failed his opinion on his management side of things. But what I was getting at there with the board is we need to now prepare ourselves that we've got new owners, and we're not going to agree with everything that these guys say. So hiring this manager is probably the first thing that we need to get ourselves used to, that it doesn't matter what we think, it's they're in charge. So there'll be certain things that they're going to do now. You'll probably see things like the naming rights to the stadium might be up for question, and there'll be a lot of traditional guys within within our fan base who won't like that. But it's the modern way, and we need to get used to it. There might be situations where pricing might be starting coming in. You might start to see things like the prices of tickets, the prices of merchandise, the price of food and whatnot around the stadium might go up, but we need to get used to that because that's the way these guys want to do it. You might find in a few years' time they'll decant us out the stadium and we'll actually have to go and play a Hampden for a whole season because they're going to redevelop a large proportion of Ibrox. They might decide that they want to lower the pitch and redo it to get more seats in the place, which will require us to leave the stadium and people will be up in the ears about that. But we need to go on with it because this is what they want to do, because it's all about the long term. They're in charge, they're in the driver's seat, we're the passengers, and we need to support this.
That's the thing, is I think that regardless of the decisions that they make, you have to support them until, and I understand the reluctance for it, and like I say, we're a traditional support that's incredibly reluctant to change, but they've not done anything to merit not being trusted. I understand we as a support, post 2011 are incredibly sceptical of anybody that walks through the front door. I think they need full background checks, and if you didn't grow up in the Copland Road and have a Rangers season ticket, then you're a money hoarding spiv who wants to to sell the carpets and the benches. But it's not true. These guys are businessmen. They've seen Rangers as an investment opportunity, and if they run it well, which I've always been, if you run Rangers well, regardless of who buys it, if you run it well, you'll make money because we have the opportunity to gain access to to financially beneficial markets. We can access the champion. You run well, we make the Champions League. We make the Champions League. You get money. You get Champions League money. You get better players. You can then sell players. You make more money. The business as a singularity becomes more profitable. You will make your money back, Rangers, if you run it well. And that's what I think, that they've at least had the decency to look at it and go, well, if we can run it the way we want to run it, Russell Martin's part, and he's part of that, we can make it successful because he's got a track record of at least improving players, improving teams. Whether it's maybe a step too far, we don't know, but we'll need to support him 100%.
Yeah. There's a few things I was wanting to speak to you about. I'm obviously trying to look for positives in this. I've basically been on the verge of a stroke since this kind of was broken. I think Chris Jack was the first one that said it was done, and I've been very kind of struggling with it, and I actually had to basically remove myself from social media for a while because I was getting to the stage I feel as if I was embarrassing myself, the stuff I was thinking about it, because I was upset about the appointment. But I've sobered up now, and I've tried to look at it in a positive light and try to look at the kind of glass half full. The thing that I like the fact he mentioned Jimmy Bell today in his interview. I think that it's kind of referencing back and reminding us that he's been with us before, and he's aware of the standards and he's aware of the traditions of the club, and what's expected of him moving forward. Something that I'm pleased about as well, mate, is that a lot of guys in this, loads of supporters talk about a British identity. Actually bringing it back and having guys in that actually understand these things, and see having somebody like a British manager like Russell Martin in, I think that's where we'll see things start to happen. I don't think we always talk about shopping in the Scottish market, and everybody, I think 99% of our fan base talks about shopping in the Scottish market, and the snobbery that we've had of not doing it over the years, and the players that we've seen go away and be successful. I think Russell Martin would be quite willing to shop in the Scottish market. I don't know what you think about that yourself, mate.
100%, and I think like we say, we talk about it, and I did have a slight concern that if we went down, let's just say for instance it was between Martin and Ancelotti, if we went for Ancelotti, there might have been a reluctance to stick to a market that maybe he doesn't understand as well, because even the sporting director Kevin Thelwell, he's English, he's kind of grew up in the kind of English market. Russell Martin, although he is Scottish, he was born in England and he was brought up in England, so he will have an understanding of that. But I don't think he's going to come up to Scotland with less of a blurred vision from Scottish football. He's going to understand being here as a player, what it's like. He obviously was here at a time when things at Rangers were, to say it was a disaster, I think is perhaps a little bit of an understatement. And
I think he recognises that himself. I think he's admitted that himself.
He's been very honest about it. There was obviously the kind of now infamous clip when he didn't sell Morgan Whittaker to us, and he basically says, "I'm sorry, I was crap. I'm really sorry, I was crap." But even today, he spoke about it and he went, "I was here. It wasn't a good time in my career. I was struggling with, getting older, and Rangers, even the club at the time, wasn't good." And he's not wrong. We at the time were an absolute shambles, and he became let's not say he was maybe harshly treated because of it. He wasn't a good signing. He really wasn't. He was terrible.
Yeah.
But he's been open and honest, I think, and I think that's probably the most redeeming thing that I took from his presser, was that he was completely honest about everything that he wanted, everything that he is, and everything that he wants to be as he kept going between manager and head coach, but I think that's just perhaps more of a slip of the tongue. He is the head coach, he's not the manager, so he doesn't have the same remit as what previous managers have had to do. I think he will have less, less total input into a lot of the runnings of the club.
Yeah. Well, one of my concerns with Ancelotti was the players that he'd be looking at bringing in. That he is probably going to be looking at shopping in markets that he's familiar with, your Spains, your Italy's, possibly looking at the time when he was in Germany and stuff. And we've got a long record of unsuccessful foreign players that have came to these shores and simply not settled. Whereas I'm very much in favour of his signing guys like Josh Mulligan, who we've spoken about previously in the pod. I would go and sign Ronnie Shanklin tomorrow, just because purely he's an available goal scorer within our league who's blue at heart and would come and give us. And I don't think Ancelotti would ever go and sign Shanklin, but I think Russell Martin would. So it's looking at that kind of thing, it's thinking, right, okay, I'm trying to look at the positives of it and thinking, right, where can we go with this here? He needs money, and I don't think that's an up for debate with that. I don't think any manager could come in without money and be able to do this. Even a Guardiola, a Mourinho, a Jurgen Klopp would come to Rangers and somebody needs at least 20 to 30 million pound this window to turn it round.
He needs back, and this is what we're talking about, is that regardless of who came in, I think we're probably now in the strongest position to back a manager properly than we have been in a while. Obviously, there's this kind of fabled £20 million number that's came out of, it's coming from a share issue. That won't all be put towards players. Most of it, Patrick Stewart did say at the press conference that a large percentage of it will be allocated towards transfers, but there's already money in the kitty. Rangers, we're not a team that's skint as much as we like to be portrayed. We spend money every summer. Our issue is we don't spend it well. We spend, I think it's an average around about £14.5–15 million every summer.
Yeah.
So we spend money. If you even put a chunk of that onto, I'm just using it hypothetically, of course, it's kind of math on a handkerchief here. You get £15 million and you take 10 or 12 of this share issue. You know what I mean? There's £25 million. You then sell players, because we have to sell players.
And that's when the unpopular things start coming in, because they start Nico Raskin for me would be packed up, wrapped up, and ready to go now. And I know that's unpopular, but it's going to happen.
No, I agree. Unless he signs a new deal, sign or sell for me for Raskin. Yeah. If he's going to stay, he needs to sign a new deal. We have to, and I know it's treating players unfairly, but they have to be treated like assets at this moment in time, and we have to protect our assets. Yeah. We're fortunate that we've got players that have been linked with moves away. Eagleman's got, I think still got 3 years left in the deal. Diamandi's still got.
I think Eagleman's longer than that, baby. I think Eagleman's up.
Was it a 5-year deal he signed?
I think Danilo signed till 2030, which was mental. But I think Eagleman signed up till 2029, from what I know of.
Right. So we've got assets there that we can cash in on and get money back. I think we would be creative unless Russell Martin is determined to see something in Danilo as a high pressing forward. He might keep him, but I don't think he's got the reliability to do that. I'd like to think that he's going to go in there and see these guys haven't played enough. As much as I would maybe like them to play in my system, I'm not going to get a turn out of them, because and we'll use Danilo as the example. Michael Beale couldn't get a turn out of Danilo, and I know he had an unfortunate face injury, but even after that, injuries, Philip Clement couldn't get a turn out of Danilo. Barry Ferguson couldn't. There comes a point where you have to stop giving guys chances that they've not earned. We need to be more ruthless, and I think actually the new board will be. I think they'll be less sentimental. When we've been talking about not making the popular choice, I think the sentimentality needs to be taken down a few notches. I'm not saying be heartless and be awful and like Michael Beale was kicking Sakala out the back door because we got bids. I'm not saying don't treat them like that, but we need to be more sensible and more ruthless when it comes to these assets. And you're like, we're not getting value for our money. We've got Danilo there on, I don't know what his salary is, 30 grand a week. You're telling me we could get 2 players for 30 grand a week that would contribute more than Danilo would. So we need to be smarter about it.
Yeah, I mean, just talking about wages there, like, I think you would get Shanklin, I think you would probably get Mulligan, and another, all in that Danilo's wage there.
Oh, aye.
And you're possibly moving Danilo on for a nominal fee, and you're picking those 2 guys up, Scottish boys, for next to nothing. So I think we're just going to get stuck.
Penrice.
For example, we mentioned quite a few times. So their 3 combined salaries will probably come to 30 grand, and they are probably going to contribute more than what Danilo is at the moment. So, but I think the thing we're asking is that we need to kind of realise we need to learn from the Morelos mistake. We need to learn from the Kent mistake where we're not selling guys at their peak value, even not selling Butland last summer at his peak value. And now look at him. I think Butland will still be our goalkeeper next season. I don't think he's our biggest worry. But you look at the fact that Raskin's been with us for 2.5 years, but he's given us a decent 6 months. He's now broken the Belgian team. He's in there. I don't know if he's playing in the Nations League games that are coming up, but he's certainly in the squad. It's just recognising the trends to say, right, that's peak value, go, get rid of. Not get rid of, that's the wrong way to put it. It's mutually beneficial for all parties that he moves on. We'll get a right good few quid. He'll progress his career and go into better things and better leagues.
Yeah, absolutely will. And it's exactly what you say. You know, we've essentially had a good 6 months out of Raskin. So, and if he's not going to sign a new deal, he's got to go. But it's the same with the Calvin Bassey thing. That's probably the one we have done well, is that we got a good 6 months at Calvin Bassey. We got offered money that was too stupid to knock back, and we're like, nah, let's just take it. But
just got to recognise these trends, though, mate. You've got to recognise that was Bassey's peak. Bassey's performance in the Europa League final was incredible. It's probably the individual best performance. I've not seen an individual performance like from a Rangers player since Gaza scored the hat-trick against Aberdeen that won his 8 in a row. I've not seen anyone play individually that good in one game for us. It was phenomenal that night.
He was an absolute machine. But this is the job of the club. We need to go and find the next Calvin Bassey,
right.
The next Egaman, the next Raskin. You know, we get Raskin on a cut price deal because his contract was on it. We need to go and find the next one, and that's how you kickstart this trade model. I'm fed up listening to consecutive chief execs, financial guys, managers say we need to have a player trade model, but they need to implement it. And it comes, like I say, but they're probably the first group of people that have been kind of in charge of running the day-to-day bit of the club that seem to have this wherewithal to say, no, this is getting implemented. Guys are going out the door. We'll find you a club that's going to with a deal that will suit you and it will suit us. We need to sort it out sooner rather than later, Ryan. And I just feel that I would like to think that Russell Martin, this is obviously we're talking about Russell Martin, because he has more. He is. I'm not saying he's less say, but Kevin Thelwell spoke at the presser and talked about that decisions with transfers in and probably out as well are determined by a group of people. It's not just Russell Martin saying, I don't want Raskin, or I don't want Dessers, or I don't want Danilo, or Thelwell saying, I want him. There's a group that are all talking together to try and get what's best, and that can be a good thing, because we want people to talk. We want to try and get the best for Rangers, and I think that as long as they've all got the same idea, which they seem to have come across that they have, they're all kind of singing off the same hymn sheet, and if they do that, then that's all we can ask for.
It's being accountable to people. This is where things went wrong with Beale. Beale wasn't accountable to anybody. Beale was the keys to the kingdom. Beale was basically running the entire show. He was right up. He was the director of football. He was the manager. He was the chief scout. He was doing absolutely everything, and he wasn't accountable to anybody apart from non-football guys. He was accountable to, I think it was Douglas Park and Stuart Bennett, possibly John Bennett. Stuart Robertson maybe at the time, and James Bisgrove. None of these guys are football players. None of these guys have been football related at all. They're all businessmen, and we all know that Beale can talk the back legs off a donkey. So when he's going out there and using all these buzzwords and he's there and all this, that, and the next thing, they'll just take it on face value. When he turns around and says that Sam Lammers is a great player, Jose Cifuentes is going to change the dynamic of my team and he's going to be the icing on the cake. Jose Cifuentes lasted 6 months at Rangers and they couldn't get out here quick enough. Just couldn't adjust. So, but somebody like, if there was like a Thelwell in there, he's accountable to say, no, listen, I don't think you've done enough due diligence on this, but I'm hoping they've got transfers identified. My hope would be that Martin will have a list of players that he would like to sign. Thelwell will have a list, and they basically work out and say, right, that's a priority. There's our A. That's our A list. These are the guys that we want there. There's our alternates, and there's our third alternate, and these are other guys, the kids that we're looking at, that if we get all these guys, can we possibly afford to go and get that? And just have succession plans. Hopefully that's the way it works. That's the way it should work.
I mean, that's the way sensible football clubs run, but Rangers hasn't been a sensible football club for a long, long time. Actually, it's funny because you're talking about Michael Beale there, and that he basically had full autonomy to go and sign who he wanted. And he's probably the first manager that was given that. If you look at, obviously, Gio van Bronckhorst, I think he was actually the opposite, and that I think he basically just went, I want a centre forward, I want a left winger, I want a left back. And Ross Wilson basically went, oh look, here's shiny Ridvan Yilmaz, he's breaking into the Turkey team. We've got him for 5 million, and you go, oh brilliant. And then, you know, without actually thinking about, is he right? Ben Davies is at Liverpool. Oh look, shiny Liverpool player, left-sided defender, brilliant. But does he play in Scotland? So I actually think that this is probably the best structure we've had for a long time. And you know, I feel bad. You know, I've seen Philip Clement get interviewed earlier on. I think he had to probably do too many jobs because he was working under a guy that was not remotely qualified in Neil Scotland. So this is probably the closest we've had to the dynamic that we've needed for a long time, and that there's an equal balance and say on buying players between the sporting director or the director of football, whatever you want to call it, and the guy that's running the team day to day.
Yeah. It's just a wee comment, a wee question in here for James Glasgow. Bring it up, mate.
Go for it. Oh, sorry, mate. I'm trying to done.
You got it. Sorry. Taylor and Purdy, I've been doing the job for years. You honestly believe they don't have a list of players? So no, we're saying we do. We're saying that we think that we do have a list of players, and we're hoping they're well prepared. I think Taylor and Purdy have basically been in role but not on payroll. I think is the way that I think there's pictures of them at Old Trafford, hiding in plain sight, basically. So this has been well underway for quite a while now, and it's just a case of now moving things. So the way strips out tomorrow, and then hopefully going to see a couple of players standing holding it. I think we could actually be looking at signings as quick as that, because I think it's just a case of putting pieces in the puzzle now.
Absolutely, would love to think so. Obviously, please guys, please get questions in. We'd love to hear your thoughts, your opinions on Russell Martin. He is the man. Obviously, at the moment, he's got to be backed. These guys have been doing this job for a long time, and I don't think for a minute that they're not going to have access to players, to contacts. Even, you know, the 49ers, they've been with Leeds United for a lot. You know, they've been at Leeds United for a few years. Do you think they're not going to have scouting database? They're data driven. You think they're not going to have players that they think aren't going to be good enough for Rangers? And then this is the thing, and I think now being part of, I know we're not officially multi-club, but we have access to the 49ers databases, that there's probably going to be players on there that they might feel won't make the grade to play for Leeds in the Premier League at that level, but could play for Rangers at a slightly lower level in Scotland. So I think you'll see, you know, movement within that of guys that they might go to Rangers and progress, and could progress and be sold on to Leeds. You know, I know we're obviously talking about Raskin being sold to Leeds, but that's kind of one of these things you've got to think about. That we have access to databases. It's not just a guy with a big book and saying this is who we signed. We're totally changing and revolutionising the way that we sign players. It's not scouting videos and sending, you know, Ewan Chester out to Yugoslavia to go and see the next big thing. We're completely changing the way. This is a total and utter revolution at Rangers, and if it works, it's going to pay dividends, no doubt.
Yeah. So it's just about getting this business model right. We've got to move it, or as a business there. There's a wee comment there for Cameron Crooks. I think this is hot on everyone's lips at the moment as well. The position of the captain. My mate said to me earlier when I was on the phone, I phoned a few of my pals today just to see how they're feeling about everything. Make sure there's none of them have done anything silly on the back of it. Only joking, but it's basically with Tavernier. My mate said that Martin will win a lot of people over if he installs a new captain straight away. That there's quite a few people that obviously have got doubts over him and basically, you know, don't want him here. He was never any, you know, there's very few people that he was the first choice. But if he goes in there and lays a marker down and changes the captaincy early, what's your kind of thoughts on that? Do you think that would win a few people over? Do you think, right, okay, keep going, that's something you've done well?
It would win me over. It would, and I'm not saying that to be, I don't think he's going to kick the guy out the club unless, you know, an offer comes in that he might want to go and finish his career somewhere else, maybe play back down in England somewhere. I don't know, but you know, I'm fed up. You know, we're all fed up with the Tavernier debate, and I can already feel Curry, you know, just fizzing in the comments. But you know, James Tavernier's been a great servant to Rangers, but he should have been sold 2 or 3 years ago. And if Russell Martin wants to implement a strategic plan for the club, the Rangers captaincy is important because it's important to us. And he's at a stage where he's trying to win over the fans, but he shouldn't make the decision just to buy over the fans. He should make the decision because it's the right thing for Rangers.
Yeah.
And installing a new captain and a new leadership group within the club, I think can spur us on. And if we keep Raskin's the guy for me. He really is. I think he's got all the attributes to be the Rangers captain. Everything that we as a support want in a captain. What about you, Ryan? What do you think?
I agree with that. Yeah, I think if Raskin doesn't get sold in the summer, if he doesn't, as much as I believe it is to sell him, if he's still here at the end of the transfer window, I would be very much in favour of him being club captain. And there's the thing that, who was it? Was it Everton when Seamus Coleman came out the team? He was still the club captain, but he wasn't necessarily the team captain. Was there a situation with that with the club recently with the older guy who was the captain of the club?
There usually is. I know there was I think it was Harry Maguire. He was the club captain at Man United, but Fernandes was the captain, and I think it's more of a token gesture for guys that maybe aren't going to play every week, but they still feel like there's a contribution to the club and they want them around, and that's fine. If that's the way we're going to go down, then fine. But there needs to be a change because I think that the fans need a change as well. Because this is what I'm talking about. The Rangers captaincy. Even though I think in England it's lost a lot of value, I think that it's just an armband to people, and it's just the guy that walks out first. But up here, I think, and to me personally, it still means something. A lot of the older generation still, you use the phrase "he's not a Rangers captain," and you can debate that to the cows come home, but it means something to us because it's John Gregg, it's Richard Gough, it's Barry Ferguson, it's David Weir, it's guys with stature that mean something to Rangers, and it's important to us. So if that's the case, I think we need to have a change. I really do.
Yeah, I'll be all for it. Listen, when you seen Raskin with the armband in January, when he's basically playing against Celtic, he brought him 1-3-0 that day, and you just seen it. For me, it was just, I felt something different about it. You see when that bloody McGregor's up to the referee every single time the referee blows his whistle, that bloody McGregor's in his face trying to referee the game. And Raskin straight away was up there with him going, F off, beat it, mate. Stop annoying the referee, go on with the game and stuff like that. We need somebody that's in there challenging that. And for me, that was basically the spur on that I think Raskin needed. We've seen obviously the 6 months that we got out of him. So if you give him on a permanent basis and he stays, what more do you get out of him? So he's the epitome of what I'm looking for as a captain. And he leads by example. He doesn't let anything go. And you've seen stuff earlier on in the season where Diamandi ended up in an altercation with the boys for Dundee United, and Diamandi ended up getting sent off. I think one of them basically pushed him, and Diamandi flung his hand up and Walsh done as usual and gave a red card against us. But Raskin's the one that's right there and about it, sorting out the referee. Tavernier's nowhere to be seen. The amount of times that you see altercations in the park and things go wrong, and Tavernier's over the other side and he's doing his socks up and he's more worried about how he looks. Mate, your team captain should be flying in there going, leave this guy alone. That's my player. And having words with the referee saying, mate, what are you doing to protect my players? This isn't right. But there's certain things that I believe that Tav does behind the scenes, and he's a great professional, maybe a great role model for some of the things, but we don't see that. And as much as we don't see it, again, maybe it doesn't matter that we don't see it. It's more important that we have belief that he is doing the right things behind the scenes. But we want a guy that's basically in the middle of the park and he's bloody a warrior for us, and that's where Raskin can be if he's still here.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you, Ryan. I think that it's one of those things that you don't stay in a place like that for as long as you have if you're not a good guy to have around. I don't doubt it for a minute that he's clearly somebody that the players like. He's clearly a popular guy in the dressing room. But, when especially now when, it's only really the captain that can talk to the referee, apparently, depends. Yeah. I think it just depends on the referee at times.
It depends what club you play for.
Well, this is very true as well, but we're not getting into that. Just like I say, but it's different when something happens and you get the right back standing waiting to take his 400 throw into the game. You're like, you should be over defending the players. That's a great phrase you used there. Defend the players, defend your team, defend the guys that are there for the guys in the stand. And I just think that there needs to be more of it, and I just think the Rangers captain needs to be more of a, I don't want to use the word speedy show, but he just needs to be a, you know what I mean? I know it's not very good. It's not very good for, you can't, it's hard to emphasize the words of getting it, but Obviously,
Yep.
Ryan, we're talking about the team there and just kind of the future of the team. And obviously, We've got a question here from I seen you started. We've got a question from our very own DJ Rob. Obviously saying, evening lads, what do you think the future holds for the likes of Bailey Rice, Ross McCausland and Robbie Fraser, younger members of the team, and had the emphasis today to give opportunity to academy players? Russell Martin did speak at the press conference. He was talking about not a huge lot, but he was talking about wanting to emphasise being able to bring through players if they're good enough. Probably 3 players there that have had mixed fortunes this season. I think Bailey Rice has had spells of looking good. Ross McCausland's had a bit of probably a poor season by everybody's judgment. And Robbie Fraser obviously had a decent loan spell the second half of the season at Livingston. Do you think we just need to focus on rebuilding the academy completely?
I mean, do we bring Lyle Cameron in as well, given how young he is?
Could do, yeah. I think we should. Yeah. We were talking earlier on about the best young Scottish talent.
Yeah. So, Wee Rice, I think there's a great opportunity for him now. I don't think Bailey's done himself any harm when he's come on. He's there. I don't think he's really put a foot wrong. You've seen how highly Ferguson rated him when he started the Bilbao game at Ibrox, which was a massive game for us. So you don't start European games, if you're not highly thought. And obviously, he came on at Old Trafford as well. Did he come on in Fenerbahce in those games? I think he was played part of those squads. So he's ready to make the step up. Ross McCausland, I think there's a lot to do. I would hope at this moment in time, Ross McCausland is still talking how every single day working on his physical side of his game. I think Russell Martin spoke a lot about how he likes to play high and aggressive and stuff, and he likes to basically win the ball back high up the park. I think McCausland's got a lot of work to do that, and obviously being one of our own and homegrown player and all this kind of stuff, we want to see him be successful, but there's a lot of work that he needs to do in his game if he's going to make the grade. Robbie Fraser, I hear mixed reports of his loan spell. Some people say he was awful, some people say he was great. We need to just have a look at that. I've got real high hopes for the boy Cameron. That's the one. I think if we can get him in and get him bedded in early, I think he's got a really good chance. We've been crying out for a right good goal scoring midfielder for years. I couldn't even tell you that. I think probably Alberts was the last kind of real goal scoring midfielder that we had. So I'm looking forward to having somebody that's actually going. Even when you get teams that are playing the low block and sitting in, and you're playing side to side, it's like, at times it's like somebody else, just have a crack at goal and have a wee shot here and just work the goalkeeper, because you never know, he could bounce off him, he could spill it right in front of Dessers and he'll put it in the Copeland Road. But so it's things like that. I've got high hopes for that. Of all the ones that are coming through, I think Cameron is the one he'll be the one that'll hit the ground running. Wee Rice second, Fraser, McCausland, jury's out.
Yeah, I think so. It's a shame that the best young players, I think, should be coming through Rangers Academy. We've put far too much money into it to not remotely get enough. It doesn't pay dividends remotely. And you can say the best young players in Scotland, even if they're not coming through, we should be signing them. I think we've done that last year with Connor Barron. I know he took a little bit of time to settle in, but Connor Barron's got a lot of attributes that I like, that I think we like, especially in a Rangers midfielder, with the tenacity, aggressiveness. There's still things to work on, of course. There's not the finished article. The same with Lyle Cameron, but they're young guys that we should be looking to develop, and within 3 or 4 years could be linchpins of the team or be sold for big money, because the market's there. And we know Scotland can be a really hit and miss market, but when you've got guys with obvious talent, it's not even, he's a standout player, one of the standout players in our division. They should be playing for Rangers, and they should be playing regularly for Rangers, not just making up numbers, which was something I had a fear about. We were talking about earlier, Ancelotti. I think that if we had young Scottish players, they would be there to make up the numbers and make up quotas, and that shouldn't be the way Rangers is run. Rangers should have a core of the best Scottish players available. I really do. And it's a shame. I know not McCausland's from Northern Ireland, but it's the same idea. He's young guys that understand what this club's about and want to bring success back to it. And I think that's the most important thing when it comes to the end of it. It's the success of Rangers is pivotal to everything that we're doing. It's about Rangers at the end of the season having big shiny things. Yeah.
And this is where part of me is glad that Martin's coming in, because I do believe he will go and sign the Scottish players. I think he'll be quite happily be up for it if he sees a talent within his league. I think he'll be quite happy. Whereas I think that the whole Ancelotti thing with him playing safe and using markets he knows and stuff like that, I think there. And you know, I think with the other thing with Ancelotti as well, I think it would be sort of saying that the toys would go out the pram maybe quite easily because he's maybe used to having it such his own way with working with world class players all these days, and then all of a sudden he's got to kind of try and get a tune out of guys like Dessers, Danilo, guys that we spoke about that are kind of underperforming. So we've just got to wait and see what brings of it. But I'm a lot happier now than I was 24 hours ago. If you'd asked me 24 hours ago, it was a bin fire. So, but I'm warming to it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the way, like I say, the way that if you've not watched it, go and watch the Russell Martin press conference. And like I say, he's got an interview that's come out, probably out now on Rangers TV. If you subscribe to that, go and listen to that, because he comes across as a really, really intelligent man. He understands, he knows what he's talking about. And you know, any clips I've ever seen of him even talking on, you know, Sky, or he clearly knows what he's talking about. And it's just hopefully that at some point he's able to get his points across. And like I say, if he gets across the things that he implied he wants to get across, we'll be absolutely fine, because Rangers has to be progressive. It has to be, you know, he said use the word courage a lot. Be courageous on the ball, be aggressive, and that's what we should be, especially domestically. Because if we do, then that's how we beat, you know, teams that want to set up shop, and that's how we win trophies. It's simple as that. Yeah.
Be any interest in any of these kind of early rumours who were signing? I think Connor Cody was mentioned.
I've seen somebody mention Connor Cody. I don't know, because I've not seen Connor Cody really. I don't really watch a lot of Premier League football other than whatever's on the telly and Match of the Day, so I couldn't tell you which he plays like week to week. It's all right seeing highlights now and then, and he's not really been super consistent. I believe, is he still at Leicester City? I'm not even sure.
I think he was Everton. I think he was at Leicester as well.
I thought he went to Leicester because they all wear blue top. I remember him with a blue top one. Do you know what I mean?
But the last thing, what I know most about him is he was one of the players that went with the last World Cup with England. But he was one of the players that was unfortunate to not get any minutes at all. But all the kind of stuff you hear about him is as much as he's not get a game, he's a massive presence in and around the camp, and he's so motivational and stuff. And he knows that he's probably not going to play because we've got other defenders in front of him. But he's not here. He's here. He's in the about, and he's motivating people. So it might, it's another good professional within the building, and it's leaders that we're looking for. When you look at guys that have been there, so and we need a replacement for Balogun. And I think defence has got to be priority. For that, I think that would be my priority. We need 2, arguably 3 centre halves. We need another left back, because the 2 we've got, one's still in progress in Jeff Dave Bridvan, so we've got to be looking at that. So we'll wait and see. What's your thoughts on Vardy?
I mean, I don't know, because I seen obviously there's a lot of comparisons with Jermaine Defoe in terms of the age and the profile, and a guy that's scored consistently. I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure. I think he's actually probably be a better signing now than he would have 6 or 7 years ago, because he's obviously lost a lot of his pace, and I actually think he's now more of an intelligent forward, and it's about finding space in the box, and he can finish, which is something we've actually lacked as a guy that just gets in the right place at the right time and sticks the ball away. So he'd actually probably be a better signing now than opposed to having to play off the shoulder against low blocks, which is something we've had players that struggle with. So I don't know, but he'd probably be on big money. But if the kind of slightly rumoured Red Bull sponsor comes in, they can fund it through sponsoring his Red Bull addiction. You never know.
Well, here's a question for you, right? No, Parkhead, title deciding game towards the end of the next season, and you turn around your bench and you're needing a goal in the last 10 minutes. Would you prefer Vardy coming on, or would you prefer Danilo coming on?
Oh, Vardy every day of the week.
So you're looking at him thinking, if he gets a chance, he's going to take it. So at 38 years old, fine. And we'll sign guys at 30. Defoe was an older guy and stuff like that. One season till we find our feet, until we manage to get some more money back in to get things going. Come in and just do a job there. My worry is his wages. He'll be in excess of 100k a week down there. What can we realistically afford to give him, and what would we want to give him, considering he's probably not going to be a starter for us every week? So that might be a problem. But sometimes it's not about money. If you got talking about Defoe, get Defoe on the phone to him and say, listen, mate, if you want to go, you'll find a better club to finish your career with, get up there and enjoy it.
100%. That's the thing, is that I don't think we should be giving, you know, a 38 or a 39-year-old even 30 grand a week to come up and fill the bench. You know what I mean? But he's never. But you know the thing is, he's never struck me as a guy that's been in it for money. He does it for the love of the game. You know, he's always been just like a really down to earth guy. I mean, my issue would be his wife more than anything, to be honest, because you know he brings his wife up and she'll be in the front page every week with the team sheet.
I think Russell Martin's missus is probably going to be arguing with that. So
well, Mrs. Martin's been, you know, she's certainly a wee delight. It's bad.
I wouldn't go that far. You seen her lately? I say to the boys. I put one. Should I say this live? Right? I put one photo in the chat room last night saying this is the only good thing about this, right? For a joke, and then it's next thing you know, it's current photographs coming out. It's like, Christ, is that a Dorothy Perkins catalog? So, but I'm sure she's a lovely person, and we welcome her to Ibrox, and we look forward to seeing her.
Mrs. Pinder, you're still, in my mind, you're still on the front of FHM in 2003, and it's all right with me. I'm all right with that. Obviously, we've completely ruined all the seriousness of it, so I think that's probably a decent time to wrap up. Of course, the guys will be on again later on with more discussions on this, and I think another Q&A. Am I right? Is it going to be a Q&A with the guys later on?
I think so. I mean, we basically I think everybody refused to come on. Like, we're not going live. I think, you know, most of our fellow Rangers podcasters, they were all going live, breaking news right from 8 o'clock this morning from the announcement, and we all just looked at each other and went, no, not doing it. But
no,
I've kind of calmed down a wee bit after a few phone calls. My pals was like, right, we need to get something out and start talking for the sake of our own subscribers and what have you.
Of course. I actually think that when I had the level of acceptance last night, when it get announced that he was going to get the deal, and you're like, right, okay, we've got to just deal with it now. And then this morning, obviously, they put it out at 8 o'clock when everybody's either still in their bed or getting ready to go to their work, so nobody would see it. You know, I think that was a bit. I think they knew what they were doing there. It wasn't a nice 10 o'clock. Oh, here's Russell Martin. You know, they're kind of like, right, here's Russell Martin.
Mate, it was after 9 o'clock till I actually realised it had happened. I was in a train going up to the town, and it was actually at the back of 9 o'clock, and I was announced as manager like an hour ago. And that's unlike me. I'm usually, you know, reasonably close to the pulse when it came me. So it just shows how slipped through it was. That's what it is.
It is what it is. But like I say, even after listening to him talk, I was kind of like, all right, okay, let's just. He's the guy. There you go. Scotty says he'll be looking at the transfer targets later on. So obviously, if you get on 9 o'clock, that'll be 9 o'clock tonight with the other guys of the Rangers Journal. Like I say, I was more just excited with just what he said, because I thought he just came across really well. And he said, I know it's all lip service, but he said everything that we want about the Rangers team. So I'm going to give him the chance, because we've wanted the fans' favourite's been given the job and it's not worked out. So they've made a decision that they think's best for Rangers. So he's got to get backed. Back him, and we'll get success. As simple as.
Over there, Russell Martin's Blue and White Army. Here we go.
Russell Martin's Blue and White Army. You heard it here first on the Journal. We know that he's another negative podcast at 8 o'clock this morning.
We want to quit. We want to quit every time somebody says it as well.
Exactly. We've trademarked that, guys. Ryan, thanks for taking the time to come on.
No bother. Somebody had to do it.
We decided to do it because we love you, we love the subscribers, we love everybody that, you know, obviously please go on, like, subscribe, comment if you like what you see. You'll get, you know, up to 5, 6 shows every week. The guys do some amount of work, you know, especially now we've got a new manager. You'll get more scouting targets, you'll get more deep dives into everything that's happening over what's to be a monumental summer for Rangers. So please, you know, get on there, get subscribing, and it does not cost you a penny. Ryan, again, thanks so much. Thanks so much to everybody for watching, for your comments, for your questions. And just remember that every single night is your Rangers Journal night. And we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.